So, anywho, I guess we can start talking. I'm so excited about tomorrow. It's kind of sad that we have to have Wrongful Incarceration Day.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
um,
that's true. But you know what? Thank God for people like you and everyone that does want to bring it to the out, bring a voice to it because there's a lot of people. I did not honestly until this past 30 days. I've not realized how many wrongfully incarcerated people there is. There is a lot.
thousands. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and people just don't know that it happens more than we really realize. So, I mean, they say it's like 2 to 10%, but I'm really thinking it's way over 10%.
I read that 54% of the people, and now that it didn't give me an overall number there, but they're falsely incarcerated due to the just the labs reports are wrong. They get mixed up, and people don't even touch upon that.
Right.
I know in Ohio not too long ago, we had people got fired and arrested because there was a lady working in a lab, and she chose to switch around some drugs for some other drugs that she wanted. It was crazy, and she went to jail, but she didn't do nearly the amount of time that a person would for actual if they was convicted of drug trafficking or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah.
So I'm going to get started while we wait on Mr. Jones. Oh, I see here he's coming in now.
That's him. He always makes me laugh. He's just so busy.
Right. That's why I wanted to set this time aside for, just to pick his head. Hi, Mr. Jones.
How everybody doing?
Oh, we're great. So we're going to get started. And the first thing I want to say is every day is Wrongful Conviction Day for somebody that's innocent and in prison. And although tomorrow is, we're having a Wrongful Conviction Day, events and rallies all over the United States, but every day is that day. And so my name is Janice, and most of you guys know me as J Love. And this is the pre-show before the rally tomorrow. And I want everyone to know that one thing, I am an advocate for my son, Gerard, who is wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he didn't do. And this is the Justice for Gerard Movement is putting this event on for Wrongful Conviction Day. So I also want to say he's innocent and he's in prison. And just to think about people are innocent and in prison, that's like a big one. It takes my breath away just to even say that. But that's a reality for a lot of people, thousands of people. So today I want to introduce everyone to my guest for today is Lisa Riley and Mr. James Jones. And can you guys introduce yourself, Lisa? Go ahead.
I'm Lisa Riley, and I'm from Breaking Silence with Prison Reform.
And what
I'm sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
And Lisa, what else? I mean, you do prison reform, and
I do. Yes, I have Breaking Silence with Prison Reform, and I'm also currently advocating for Mr. Quentin Sanders, and also for a Mr. Stephen Scott out of Alabama.
Oh, okay. And Mr. Jones?
My name. Thanks for having me. First of all, my name is James Jones, and I am the founder of a nonprofit titled the Reinvention Center out of Oxon Hill, Maryland. And in addition to that Reinvention Center, I also advocate with Miss Lisa Riley and Maurice Clifton. Mr. Clifton is out of Mississippi, Mount Bayou, Mississippi, and he's the founder of an organization called Sail with Sippy. That's go ahead.
Okay. So and you also have a show that you do?
Yes, it's called the Growth Hour. It's not only myself. Everything I do, I want everybody to know that myself, Lisa, and Maurice do it in conjunction. It's a group effort that in everything that we do. We support each other, even if, regardless if we have different projects, we're going to support and help each other in those projects. We have a firm belief that just like steel sharpens steel, people sharpen people. So we try to collectively do everything because it's like the old saying, two heads is always better than one. So yes, we do have a show, and it comes on every Sunday at 8:00, and it's called Growth Hour. And if you're interested in coming on it, you can go on my page, which is James Jones, or my organization page, which is the Reinvention Center, and the links for it will be posted, and the topic for that day will be posted as well.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So this is one thing I want, the topic I want to bring up today, that people don't know this. So we're going to be educating a little bit today. But at any time, any person, no matter what color, race you are, male or female, you can become wrongfully incarcerated or wrongfully convicted of a crime that you didn't do. And so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And Mr. Johnson, if you want to take off on that a little bit, but I don't think people understand how easy that can happen.
It's extremely easy, and I'm glad that you're actually having this topic because people need to understand how the criminal justice system is. I have family members that didn't believe the justice system was like it was until I had my entanglement with the justice system, and they got to see it firsthand. What people need to understand is today, they don't have to catch you in anything. They don't have to see you do anything. What they do is take the word of another individual who they have caught red-handed doing something and saying that you did this or you done that, and in order to help themselves get a reduced sentence, and they will indict you on that person's word and take you to trial and convict you on that. The prisons are filled with a lot of people, that are actually innocent of their crime. But the system, we don't have enough lawyers that has the time, because they're locking us up at such a high rate that they don't have the time to actually sort through each individual case and get the nuts and bolts of it and actually prove that it's something that's wrong.
Right. So when you were saying that, I was thinking about my son. He was wrongfully convicted based off of someone saying that he was the person. And how his case went, a lady was robbed at an ATM one morning, like maybe 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And for a few days, her son walked around looking for someone with this general description of Black, thin built, braids, and that was it. That was their description of who they were looking for. And the first person he seen just fit that description was my son. So, and they took that instead of really working the case. They just took the word of these people and made a case out of it. And now he's in prison for something he didn't do. They didn't go get like the video. There was evidence that he had phone evidence that was lost. All these different things that once they pinpoint who they're looking for, they forget about, the evidence that may, clear you. They're going to focus on putting you in prison for that crime. And that happens so much every day.
Well, what people got to understand is the government's job is to prosecute. And a lot of times they're not looking for the truth. They're looking for a conviction. So the truth doesn't matter. That goes out of the window. They look at whatever, or they gather whatever they feel like they need to gather in order to convict the individual. I've seen that happen numerous times where, it got to a point where we were saying, because at one time I was incarcerated, but we were saying inside the prison that what is the truth? What actually happened? Or whatever, or is it what the government said has happened, or is trying to prove that happened? And often, it's what in the court's eyes, it's what the government is saying happened. In the jury's eyes, it's what the government is saying happened. And I think that, again, that this is great, and people need to understand that you need to dig more into cases and situations. If you're on the jury pool, ask questions, and don't be afraid, don't be intimidated by the court. You are there to render a service, and that the judge is not going to restrain you from asking questions and doing things, because you have to make a decision on someone's life. Need more evidence, need more facts. It's lawyers, like I said, the lawyers don't take the time out, or they may say they don't have the time, and that's some truth to that. But they don't take the time out to, like you say, find the evidence, go get the videotape. They leave that up to you. If it's like they throw a whole bunch of stuff against the wall, and if you don't peel it all off and leave some on there, then they sentence you. It's equivalent to that.
And if you don't mind me saying,
oh yeah, I was waiting for you to jump on in, Lisa.
oftentimes what happens, and now Mr. Jones, he has a legal background, so he'll know more about this too, but the prosecutor, the attorney, the judge, they have meetings before this court, date comes in effect. And oftentimes they'll say, hey, listen, I need to win this case, but I'll go ahead and lose the next case. So, they set that up. And if you're a person that you're going into court for the first time, your family has never experienced anything before, and you're ignorant of the law, you're in trouble. You really are, because, they will take advantage of that. Unfortunately, when we talk about attorneys, and I don't want to say all attorneys are bad, but there's a lot of attorneys out there are just, using some of these cases to build their image. Or maybe their image is already built and they're okay to throw a couple people to the wolves,
Right. I agree.
I want to say this, that you got 100 on the scale of 100%. You have 80% of the attorneys that's competent, and then you may have 20% that are actually good attorneys. The definition of competent is being able to pass the bar exam. That is what makes an attorney competent. When you go to court, and another example of that is when you go to court and you're filing an ineffective assistance of counsel claim, basically a claim saying your lawyer's not competent or he's not doing his job. They go on the scale of 1 to 100, and if the judge says if it's 51% that he's done his job, that's enough. They're competent because he passed the bar. But again, only 20% of the attorneys are actually good attorneys that actually go and perfect their craft, actually that have that allows the emotion to get involved and do what's right. And explain to the clients what it is that they actually have afforded to them. A lot of people get incarcerated and don't even realize that the same investigators, the same experts, all this extra stuff that the prosecutor can get to prove their case, you have a right to that as well. In the feds, it's called the Criminal Justice Act. I'm not sure what it's called in the state, but it's the act that allows them to appoint you an attorney. They have funds set aside for you to get a private investigator at the government's expense. If you got some tapes, you want somebody to analyze the voice of it, or analyze if they're real or not, have they been tampered with. If you can show a need that you need that expert, the court has funds set aside for that. We don't know that going into the system.
Right. And that is on the list of ineffective counsel. It is on the list of the things that can get you wrongfully incarcerated. And I agree with you, because even, going back to Gerard again, he had a lawyer who had, a billion zillion cases. And, and you have, they're not prepared when you, a lot of these DAs, public defenders. So with that being said, you have so many issues with getting good representation when you can't afford a lawyer. So that's, I also wanted to talk about misidentification. That's another way that people are wrongfully incarcerated. They are misidentified a lot of times by people who say, yeah, that's the person. They don't do lineups, and, they're forcing their way to make this, the authorities, the police, or, whoever, the prosecutor, are forcing this story. And the misidentification of a person is also another way that this stuff happens. So.
And I agree, Ms. Love, because Stephen out of Alabama, and he had never, with the victim, never identified him at all until he went to court. And when he went to court, the prosecutor asked him, or asked the woman that claimed to be victimized, is your attacker here? It is, and she said yes. And he said, well, describe him. And this is Alabama. And she says, well, he's the man of color with glasses. Here's the problem. He was the only man of color with glasses on in that room. And that's the problem. That's the major problem right there. That why is it that this prosecutor or judge or someone say, hey, wait a minute, this is not right. Right. And they just don't. It's like they all know ahead of time the game plan. They know, this is what we're going to do.
Right. And I think in those moments, they're not looking for justice. They're looking for
a conviction.
Right.
The conviction is the most important thing to them. And just like you're saying, the misidentification, a lot of that goes on. And also what happens is, like Lisa is saying, the police officers lead the individual into believing, or put them in situations where they can choose you. If I'm the only young black male that's sitting behind the tables with the prosecuting attorney and then my attorney, and they say, do you see the defendant here? Who are they going to choose? But if they have 3 or 4 different individuals, regardless of race, sitting behind that table with the attorneys, or 5 people sitting there, then they will have a problem. That's really picking somebody out of the lineup. I know for a fact that, let me use my scenario for example. When they was questioning people about me, they was going to people and telling people, this person did this to you, and then when they heard that name in the courtroom, or heard my name in the courtroom, the police had already told them this the person that did it. So when they heard that name again, they associated that with what the police said, and they went off of what the police said. I had a witness that testified that the sergeant of the state police office told him, I'm the one that did it. And my lawyer asked him, so you didn't say he did it, he told you he did it. And he said, yeah, he told me that he's the one who done this to me. But I was still convicted of that. That wasn't an issue or anything. We just proceeded forth as business as usual. So the thing is, there's like, it's a lot of what I feel is prosecutor misconduct, because if you go to an individual, you're questioning an individual about me, and you're showing them my picture, when you're questioning them about me, how can they not pick me out later on down the line?
Right. And plea bargains. That's another one. We have people.
You got a great list, Ms. Love.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes.
I mean, we got to keep it 100.
You got a great list.
These things happen. Plea bargains. If you hear that, hey, you could get 25 years, or you could get 1 year. you know, and then you have this person who, you know, can't really juggle the case around for you, you know, can't do the job. You're going to be like, okay, I'm going to take the one, even though you didn't do it, because you don't have the confidence that you're going to win. And when you have the state, the whole state against you, and then it's hard to say, hey, I might not win this. Even, you know, even with my son, same thing. They offered him a plea, 1 year, no court costs, but he was like, I want to fight this. I didn't do it. And ended up getting 2 to 17 years. But, you know, if, you know, I asked them, you know, do you, you know, when he was adamant about it, you know, the 1 year or the 2 to 17, he like, I want to fight. So, you know, but not everybody will take that stand.
You know, when you take, and because it's not a lot of people that take that stand, Miss Love, what happens is they're able to punish. What I mean by punish is they excessively sentence the individuals who do take that stand because everybody else is cooperating. You know, or they're just taking the plea just to be able to take the plea. Let me say it that way. And I know a lot of people in the system that have taken pleas just to be able to say, I got a day to go home. You know, I have an out date now. You know, but like your son Gerard, it's hard to accept something that you didn't do. You know, it's hard for me to accept that when I know without a shadow of a doubt that I didn't do this.
Right.
And then you're saying, hey, take this plea and go to prison and just be happy about this. How am I supposed to be happy about you taking my life? You know, there's no way that I'm gonna be happy about you taking my life. Another point I want to point out, you're speaking of the state because you're saying a 2 to 17. That's the split sentence. Let me give you an example of the feds, of what they do in the feds. They'll offer you a plea, come to you and say, hey, you want to plea out, you take a plea for 10 years, and you assign a plea for 10 years. But then they have something what they call a pre-sentence report, which calculates your criminal history, calculates other factors, if you had a gun at the time or how close you was to a school, or put all type of factors in there. And at the end of the day, what happens is every factor that they put in there enhance your sentence. They already know what your criminal record is, Ms. Love. So they already know when they offer you a 10-year sentence, you're not going to get that 10 years. Your attorney is supposed to look at your record and say, okay, now based on your record, you're not going to get this 10 years. Because in discovery, that is one of the things they must give you, a copy of your criminal record. You see what I'm saying? So your attorney's supposed to look at that and do that. But my point is, often 90% of the plea bargains that go on in the feds do not result in the time that they said they're going to give you. You know, unless you have what they call a Rule C, a binding plea, where the judge and everybody agrees to a certain amount of time. You know, if you don't get that, I would advise you to be careful of taking a plea, because rarely do you get what they ask for. I know a guy pled guilty to a $20 rock and thought he was going to get 10 years, ended up getting a life sentence because he had prior convictions. You know, again, his lawyer should have known that he's a career criminal, you know, or he's a habitual criminal, you know, but, you know, the lawyers, they don't prepare because they're hoping you plead out. They come to you and tell you, hey, if you don't take this, you're going to get this here. That's their ploy to get you to plead out. So they're not prepared in hopes of you taking that plea.
Wow.
Absolutely. And then, you know, it's such a toss up to, like Quentin Sanders' case, without getting into really big details, but there were 3 people involved in that. It was a horrible car accident with a policeman that lost his life. There were 3 people. 2 of them made a deal, and they decided, let's blame Mr. Sanders, and they took that. And so he got stuck with the 51 years to life.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go down the list. Perjury. Perjury. Lies. Lying police. Lying, you know, what can we do? In Detroit, Wayne County, 75 over 75 police officers can't testify in court because they lie.
Wow.
So, you know, when you don't have any accountability and transparency, you have people convicted of crimes maybe because somebody lied. And these people are walking around here still working, like nothing has ever happened. I don't know how they sleep at night. But then somebody else is in prison 5, 10, 20 years based off a lie.
Yeah, no one ever seems to be held accountable that's doing it, and I get it. I'm in Ohio, and not long ago we had judges that was convicted for taking bribes. They took bribes on different cases that, it wasn't the case they looked at. They just decided, hey, someone gave them $10,000 and said, hey, let them through. They're innocent, and that happens all the time. There's never no one ever gets held accountable, whether that's the police, which we see that going on now. Why is that? Why can all this happen? I don't understand that part of it, truly. If there's really a justice, how come that it's not the same justice? It's divided.
Right. Because if everyone else had to be held accountable, mm-hmm. And this is where we go into that conversation about qualified immunity. But, why aren't the people being held accountable that lie, that, do whatever they can to put somebody in prison wrongfully, and that's why the numbers are so high, because there's no one to stop it or no one to take accountability. I really feel if people knew that you can go to prison for lying or perjury or, misconduct or whatever, I think it would probably be a little bit less people in prison today for wrongful conviction.
I agree with that. But it's happening so much, Ms. Love, because if you're on the prosecutor's team and you're lying and he knows you're lying and you're lying for him, who's going to prosecute you for the lie?
It's true.
So they don't have to worry about getting caught out. But the moment I change my story or change 1 or 2 words in my story, then I'm committing perjury. Do you know that in the feds, again, I speak of the feds, if you go to the trial and you lose, I was telling you about those point systems. They give you 2 points. They give you a couple more years for exercising your right to go to trial. And you you go to trial and you take the stand and you deny the charges and you get found guilty. They give you 2 points, which is equivalent to 2 to 5 years extra, because they say you committed perjury and the jury deemed that you committed perjury, and that's why, and it found you guilty. So you really can't, but you have a constitutional right to testify, but they're going to punish you if you can understand and testify and don't win that trial, you're getting punished for doing it.
Wow.
So there's a lot that goes on with the system. There's a lot of unfair things that happens in the system. I think that they should have did more investigation on Gerard, your son's case, and they shouldn't just took, what one person said. When you say a muscular black male with braids, that's a high percentage of black people today. So how do you that's not enough to just say that he done this.
Right.
But unfortunately we see it happen all the time. We see it happen all the time, and I applaud you for the movement that you're making for him, and you have to continue to do it if you want. We invite you to our show, and you can come on there and speak his story, and get his story out more to different people, and this is what we have to do: share each other's platforms to accomplish goals that we need to accomplish.
Right. I was just telling Lisa the other day, we have to become a village, all of it, because we're all in this together and we're working towards the same goal, to free the innocent, to free the wrongfully convicted. And, I know, as I stand up for Gerard, I mean, this is bigger than him. Once I got, into the meat and potatoes of it, this is a machine that's constantly going and constantly feeding and feeding and eating and eating. And until we as taxpayers and citizens, and because we're the boss, stand up to these people like, hey, we're the boss, not you. And we want accountability and transparency. These things are going to continue to happen, but we can be the change that we need for criminal justice reform.
But I think the change happens not only us standing up and saying, "Hey, we're the boss." That's one aspect of it. But I think the change happens when, like right now, with these elections and everything that's going on, we have to. I think that we have to go out and actually vote on all levels. We can't just vote for the president. We have to vote on all levels. We have to go out and vote when they're electing judges, when they're electing prosecutors. You have to go out and vote at those times, because those people are going to be instrumental on what happens in your community. We can't not go vote for them, go vote for the president, and they be disgruntled with the system, because our lack of vote is what allowed the system to be built into what it is.
Right.
Absolutely. And there's so many people that do not have family or friends. They're completely alone, and they've been incarcerated for years. And, and those people need people like ourselves, yourself, to use your voice to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? All these wrongfully convicted men and women, and, something has to change. And until we come together and as one and let, our system know that enough's enough.
Right, right. So we have some more people coming on. Hi, you guys. They're going to be on the event tomorrow. And so I just had them come into Reverend Ed Pinckney. He's a strong advocate. Hi, Reverend Pinckney.
How you doing?
I'm great. I want you to meet Lisa Riley, who's going to be with us tomorrow, and James.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello, it is my pleasure. I am so honored and excited at the same time.
Well, you know what? It's all I can tell you is going down. So let's do what we got to do.
And Mr. James Jones, and this is Reverend Ed Pinckney.
How you doing, James?
I'm great. How about yourself, sir?
Hey, just rocking and rolling and rolling and rocking, trying to make it happen.
It's gonna happen.
That's right. That's right.
Reverend
Absolutely.
Pinckney, can you share your story with us?
Which part? It's too long to. I wouldn't want to keep you here too long. So here's what's important. In 2008, I did a recall on one of the corrupt commissioners here, who just so happened to have the largest family here, and he was backed by Whirlpool Corporation, and we were successful at recalling him because they never thought it could happen with all the money that was backing him and his large family. And we're in a very small town, so we were fortunate to recall him. And what they did, they got upset and angry about that, because Black folks not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to organize and be able to beat the machine. And we were very fortunate because Whirlpool supported him and using their dollars to keep him in office, because they was trying to take over the whole city of Benton Harbor. So anyway, what they did, they charged me with being in possession of an absentee ballot, which it was not true, but unfortunately, they had the power to do so. They had an all-white jury that was motivated by something other than the truth, and they found me guilty. So what happened was, I wrote an article in the People's Tribune, basically, and I quoted Deuteronomy 28, starting with the 15th verse. And the judge claimed that was a threat on his life. On that notion, they sent me to prison. I was in prison for about maybe 9 months, but part of the time, the reason they gave me a appeal bond. I was one of the first guys in the history of mankind to ever receive a appeal bond on something like that, But fortunate for me, went to the Court of Appeal, and it was reversed. And we won that thing, but I still had spent 9 months in prison. So that was that. But the problem was that, we gave them something that they never had. We stood up to them And that never happened. We don't stand up to these people. And this is how they get away with stuff, because nobody has the guts to say, well, what you're doing is wrong. And here's the thing. I'm a court watcher. I've been court watching since 1999. And I religiously go to the courthouse. I'm there 5 days a week. I get there at 8:30 in the morning. I take a lunch when they take a lunch, and I come back when they come back, and I stay. And what I do, I help the people, because most people go to court, they have no idea what's really going on. And we've been fortunate enough to win a lot of cases that maybe if they didn't know what to do, that would have happened. And also in 2014, we did a recall of the mayor of Benton Harbor. This time, he was corrupt, also a Whirlpool supporter. And what we did, they accused me of forgery on a recall petition. And there was no such charge. There's no such charge as forgery on a recall petition, not on the 168.937. That was, but they figure most Black people don't have the resources and don't have the wisdom and the knowledge to fight them. And they sent me to prison for 30 months. And fortunate for me, though, after I completed the 30 months, the Supreme Court ruled that I was right all along, that there was no such charge as forgery on a recall petition. But now we're suing them, and we got them just where we want them, because we're willing to fight. See, a lot of times people are not willing to fight. You have to fight back. You have to show these people, because they will run over you. The system, every time, it could be some decent people working at the courthouse, but once they get with these evil, wicked people, they join them and become against whatever good, they become bad. Good people become bad people, you see, and that's the way it is. But we have learned to fight, and we have learned to fight and win. And you'll be amazed how many cases that we have actually won here. We know that the court-appointed attorneys, most of them here, they're almost worthless. We had done so much. I have worked with the ACLU for them to bring in to get rid of the old court-appointed system, bring in new people, and we were fortunate enough to have that done. And that don't get done here, but we was fortunate here to have it done. But now that court-appointed system has reverted back to what it was before, which is horrible, because now they have no real leadership. There's one guy, Carl McPherson, he left here. When he left, people started doing everything about money. So that's one thing. Also, the juvenile lifers, I worked hand in hand with the ACLU to help them to bring that law and bring these young boys home, and to make sure that they get home, because those are two major accomplishments that we have accomplished while we was here. The court-appointed system, we revamped that, but now it's back to what it was before, lousy. But the juvenile lifers is something that we can hang our hat on and say that we're doing good about that. So basically, that's me for now. So I just want to give you a tidbit, because we could probably talk here for 3-4 days of all the things that's going on.
Thank you, Reverend Pigney. I also see Drew. He's going to be on tomorrow as well.
Amen.
Drew he was wrongfully convicted. And Drew, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell a little bit of your story?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we hear you well.
Yeah. Back in 1989.
Okay.
I got involved in the case. Basically, I had no clue. 21 years old, no real understanding of the law, which they tell you ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Absolutely.
But I was a passenger in the vehicle that was involved in the shooting where 3 people got shot. And I was convicted as the lead. The judge said basically because I was the only one that had finished high school, had some college, ironically criminal justice was what I took at WC3. He said that I had to be the ringleader of this group, 3 males and 1 female, of which I got all the time, even more time than the shooter. Dealing with the court, as you talked about, court-appointed attorney. I had a court-appointed attorney that couldn't remember my name, my files. outside the courtroom several times, had to be introduced to me each time he came in. And he kept telling me, you know, mere presence is not enough to be convicted, just being there.
Right.
You weren't the shooter, you didn't do anything. I was the front seat passenger. The passenger behind the driver was the actual shooter, who ended up only getting, he got like 8 to 15. They gave me 3 10 to 20s. Police actually, I can recall, even back then, looking under the car when they pulled us over. My then girlfriend, I could see her under the car while he had his foot on my neck. I actually had a foot on my neck. Then I didn't really think about it at the time till all of George Floyd and everything came. I was like, wow, they was doing that back then. He actually had his foot on my neck while they had me on the ground. I could see her under the car, and she was scared like I was. But they gave me 3 10 to 20s, and the judge stipulated, he said, well, I'm only going to give the female 2 to 5 because the court looks at women differently, at least back then. They can do the same crime, but they don't want to give them that type of time.
Wow.
Defendant admitted to everything, and he got found not guilty. But everybody made it sound like I was the smart one. The judge said, you must have put this together. So basically, you're the leader of this. So I'm going to give you, gave me 3 10 to 20s to serve consecutively, or concurrent, I'm sorry. All at one time. But I ended up serving 14 years because with the parole board, I don't know if it's changed now, but it was horrible then. If they even bothered to come see you. I know so many guys would just get a decision. They wouldn't even come see you. Every time I come see them, I got advice from a guy in there that told me, you know, basically all they want you to do is admit to it. He said they can't convict you again.
Right.
Just tell them what they want to hear. They want to hear you say you did it, you sorry for what you did, being a lower tier prison, being a level 2, closer to home, and they'll let you go. The first time I saw them, they barely asked me any questions. They just told me they see me again in 2 years.
Okay.
Second time I saw them, they said they see me in 18 months. The third time, they said they see me in 12 months. At that point, I told my mother, I'm maxing out. You know, I'm not going to keep going in front of these people who I could see they don't care, because they don't care what mental state that they're putting me in by constantly denying me parole when I've done everything. I completed every program that they had offered and was not required to do any programs, including NA and AA, and wasn't required to do any type of program. Went through all the programs, went through voluntary boot camp, everything, and still they just felt like, they felt like, you know, hey, you know, whatever happens, whatever type of person we send back out of this hellhole, he's not coming to our neighborhood, so it doesn't matter. I've even had officers in there when they found out that you got parole, they told me they needed me to come back. They told me I'd be back. They needed me to be back. Their grandchildren needed me to be back because they needed that money. This was the mind state that they had. Yeah, I can recall listening to my so-called attorney making deals with prosecutors of basically saying, well, you know, we got so-and-so and so-and-so. Well, I need at least 2 out of the 3 of them, and I can give you something on him, and we can work on this. And if we go this way on this one, I can make sure that the judge goes this way on that one. I'm like, they actually out here in the hallways at Frank Murphy making deals on people's lives.
Yeah.
I give you this, I give you, like they trading Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something. And he came to me and he told me, so they give you this, it's for y'all. They gotta have at least 3. They're willing to let 1 go. This was before one of the defendants that got found not guilty. He said they'll give you 2 to 5. All you gotta do is help them convict the other 3.
Wow.
That's the attitude.
And I was like, no, but you told me mere presence that I'm, you know, we ain't got nothing to worry about. I didn't do nothing. I wasn't, you know, I was just there.
Right.
And, you know, basically the judge let it be known that because I didn't do anything to stop it, and I didn't do anything afterwards. At 21 years old, growing up in Detroit, what was I really supposed to do? I didn't know it was gonna happen. And then after it happened, I was partly in shock, partly just on a trip. It was my birthday. I had been drinking, so I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. All I wanted to do was the whole time was go down to Belle Isle. That was my whole goal that night
Right.
before this incident took place. And they were like, help us convict. You didn't stop it. The police actually told me the guy that got shot, he actually threw his sister in front of him. That's how she got hit. Another bullet went through the wall and hit the little girl going upstairs. He got hit. The police officer told me if it had been just him, they didn't care. He told me they didn't give a F about him. We could have killed him. It's only because the two girls and the climate that it was at that time with automatic weapons being used and the climate that was in Detroit at that time was the only reason that they really cared about it. He said if it hadn't been for them two little girls, we wouldn't even be looking for y'all.
Wow.
So,
When you was in prison, where were you? Where was you at? You ever go to Coldwater?
no, I started out in Scotts actually, and then they closed that for the women. And when opened up Adrian, no, went to MR for 2 years, then opened up Adrian, then Muskegon, MCF, ATF, been up north, opened up St. Louis, then the Oaks. I found that it was good to, if you could spend about 2 years, by the time it took about 2 years to get used to a place, and get tired of it. If you could get 2 years and move around, get transferred in 2 years, it made your time go by a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, one of the things they did for me, they kept me moving. They was moving me every 3 months. I was going somewhere. Nobody wanted me in their prison. One of the things when we was up in Marquette, we did the protest of the fish, the buck naked fish up there, and we kind of like they had these guys all set up, and we didn't go. We just didn't go, and they didn't like that, because we're not supposed to be able to think on that level. And they had guys that actually tried to target me, but they figured that, that no, he's short time. He's not, because that's a bad number if they catch you. Is inside the riot. That's what they would classify it as. But fortunate for me that, that we had a well-organized a food strike, which was, basically what you can do there to upset them, because at that time they had their air marshal was gone, and they brought in somebody else, and by us not going, they had to pay back everybody. When you didn't come, they had to pay back the money back to whoever it was or whatever it was. I don't know how they say. I can't remember everything, but it was such a dynamic thing that they locked us down for about 5 days after that. They locked everybody down, the whole thing. People that didn't even participate, they locked everybody down. So that was up at Marquette, So that was, one of the big things that happened while I was there. But yeah, I'll tell a good story tomorrow. I got a lot of good ones.
Okay.
We did a food strike at MCF. It was amazing to see. They did something to one of the brothers, and they just went on the yard, and everybody decided, like, look, tomorrow, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, everybody gets up and goes. Everybody put your blues on. Everybody suited and booted. You're going to walk in, you're going to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everybody's going to walk in, no talking, complete silence. Nobody talks to anybody. Nobody says nothing. Nobody looks. Walk. You're going to go straight in, get your tray, get it full of food, throw it away, walk out, go back to the unit. We had made food for everybody. We had our own food, so we were cooking if anybody was going to be hungry. But we did that all 3 meals, and it was amazing how the guards were standing along the walkway and was like, what's going on? What's going on? Y'all ain't talking? They couldn't understand. They were panicking because there was complete silence. It's the first time I'd ever been in an institution where it was complete silence, especially in child time. There was nobody saying nothing. Everybody walking to the child hall, not a word, not a laugh, not a joke, no talking, nobody saying, hey, what's up? Just quiet. Little nods here and there. And they were considering doing a lockdown because they didn't know what was going on. They thought that we were about to riot.
Yeah.
It's sad that you have to, in these institutions, the prison have to, go through all these things because of the injustice and how they're set up, there's so much injustice even inside. I mean, you're wrongfully incarcerated, and then inside you have to go through even more injustice,
That's true.
just, on a daily basis. So it's more compound injustice, on top of injustice. I see Charity on here. Hi, Charity. I just wanted her to say something. Her loved one has been wrongfully incarcerated as well. Hello.
You have to unmute herself.
Oh, yeah. Charity, unmute yourself. I thought she was unmuted. But as she unmutes herself, I want to go back to our list that we were talking about. So we got misconduct is another one. I think we talked about misconduct a little bit. Police misconduct, prosecutor misconduct, even judges, their misconduct.
Absolutely.
That leads us. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Miss Love. What jumped in my mind just now, and going back to the prisons, I have talked to a handful of moms. There's one in particular, her first name's Serena, where they beat her son to death, and the guards. And what about their conduct? Why are they allowed to do that?
Right.
And then, they can say, well, he wasn't complying. At what point do we say, just because he didn't comply doesn't mean you can take his life?
Right. Absolutely. I just got a text earlier today about a young lady who had so many seizures in Huron, the women's prison here, and she ended up dying. They didn't do anything to protect her, to stop her, to get her medical attention. And so we have a lot of work to do on the reform. When we say criminal justice reform, there's so many places that needs reforming. I mean, from the beginning to the police stop, all the way to the prison. And so that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're standing up for the wrongfully convicted, because there's so much that goes wrong, and they have very little voice. And so with everything that's going on right now, in regards to civil rights movement and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, I think wrongfully convicted, we cannot leave that out the conversation, because that is a really big part of the reason why this system needs to be reformed, because we have so many people that are innocent, that are either in prison or, have served time or out on, just because someone didn't do their job or didn't care about their job or don't care about you. So I thank you guys for coming on. Do you want to say anything else, Mr. James, before we leave out?
I just think that a lot of us, let me put my thing back on, excuse me 1 second.
Okay.
I think that first I want to say I appreciate you for having the show, because it's important that we educate people on how prison actually is, how the system starts with the courtroom all the way up into how the prison system actually works, as the gentleman down here was saying. A lot of people are unaware of how it actually happens until their loved one is caught up in the system. So we're hoping that they'll listen to us and learn from our lessons or our hardships instead of having to go through it themselves. But there's definitely the system is about money. It's about economics, and they're trying to lock people up and keep people in there. And some people would say, hey, it's not about money. It is. They're building more private prisons, and they're putting people to work. They're working in these factories and not getting paid, but minimum, not even minimum wage. I was getting paid 46 cents an hour. And at one point I was getting paid $1.35 an hour, but I was doing a job of accounting for over 500 inmates. I did payroll for inmates and officers, and I was getting paid $1 something an hour. On the street, that's $100,000 a year job. But we had to look at the 13th Amendment, and I asked people, it won't be today, but sometime this weekend, I'm going to post it on my Facebook. On my YouTube page. YouTube page is the Reinvention Center, and it's called the 13th Amendment, Part 1 and Part 2, and it explains that the 13th Amendment, and it states that slavery is prohibited except if you're convicted of a crime. So because I'm convicted of a crime, gives them justification to have me do a job that pays $100,000 to $200,000 a year for $1.58 an hour. Again,
Right.
it's about making money. They're making $25 and $30 million a year in net after they're paying their expenses, and I'm getting paid $1,200 to $1,400 a year for doing their job. So it's about money. It's about money. People need to understand
Oh
that
yeah.
and see
Yeah.
it's about money. This is why they're handing out these big sentences. And there was a judge that was sentenced to 28 years for selling or sending young black men to prison, to private prisons,
Right.
because to keep it full so they can make money. Because what people have to understand, there's a certain amount of money paid per year per inmate. So it's like any other business. I'm going to minimize my expenses by feeding you less, giving you the most shabbiest clothes. I'm cutting the heat off at a certain time. The lights may blink out 4-5 times a week. Because I'm turning them off. In order to make a profit. So just understand that prison is not what people think it is. There's no more education in there, so it's hard to rehabilitate yourself. As the gentleman said earlier, I could go on and on about prison. Spent 20 years and 10 months in it. So I definitely understand how they work inside and out.
Right. Oh, I think we have one more person on here. I'm gonna ask him to unmute himself. I didn't know that was you. Gabe, is that you? Unmute yourself, please. And as he unmutes himself, Lisa, do you have anything that you want to leave with us?
Well, I just would like to thank you for having me on. It's an honor. I look forward to tomorrow. I'm super excited. I think this is what we need to come together and share our opinions and get our voice out. And the bottom line is to make changes and to help people. So and what Mr. Jones had said, the 13th Amendment, I would encourage everyone to watch that show on Netflix. Mr. Jones originally inspired me to watch it. I've watched it about 4 times, and each time I'm just like, wow, it's very educational, and we definitely need to make a change.
Yes, because the system is not broken. It's working exactly how they set it up to work. And in order, like you said, for things to happen differently, we need policies and laws and things to change, because if not, they're going to keep feeding the machine, the money machine, like Mr.
Right.
Jones was talking about.
And if you don't mind me saying, yeah, Mr. Jones, you hear, he's my mentor, so I have to tell you that retroactive, that's a very important word. And, these bills, we need to get them in there. We need to get that word in there, retroactive. We need to help people. We're working with Quentin Sanders, advocating, and hopefully a bill will pass that will help a lot of juvenile offenders.
Yes. And I see Gabe is on. Hello, Gabe. Can you unmute yourself? Drew, as Gabe comes on, is there any last things you'd like to leave us with?
Mr. Jones just reminded me of working at the furniture factory at MR back in the day. I made it all the way up to supervisor, making them desks for Michigan State. There's a lot of complaining from the outside community that we were making too much money because we were putting out furniture people outside out of business because they couldn't make the same product with the same quality and for the price that the state of Michigan was making. So they ended up shutting that down. But the accountability in the penal system, you know, even when you get road tickets, you get misconducts, and you go in front of the hearing officer, it's like, you know, there's no presumption of innocence. You're guilty. You just hope you can some kind of way show or prove that you didn't do it, or that you can get as little bit of time as you can out of it. I've been sent to the hole many times on some garbage where they done just pulled me over walking the yard and said I had something that I didn't have. I mean, it kind of mirrors out here, but on the scale in there, they can do it and get away with it, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're a prisoner. So the outside world looks at you as though you're just a number. You must have did it. They wouldn't have arrested you if you didn't do it. They wouldn't have pulled you over if you didn't do it. You must have done something. Well, now you're in there and you're getting misconducts and everything, so you must not have learned your lesson. You're still acting the fool. The accountability, you can't hold officers. They can get away with beating you to death.
Wow.
And nobody cares because it's a prisoner.
Right. Gabe, hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you well.
All right.
How are you this evening?
I am doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain.
All right.
Gabe, while you're here, why don't you tell everybody what you do and you know, who you are and what you do, and that'll be
Yes. Well, my name is Gabriel Romo, and I travel the country I designed the innocent flag, and I travel the country in support of people who are innocent and in prison, and I give a flag to either the person, if I can, which doesn't happen a whole lot, of the actual innocent person who was in prison and got out. And if I can't give it directly to them, I give it to their family, their immediate family. And then I raise awareness best I can all over the country.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so what inspired you to
I I grew up in rural Wisconsin, like way out in the country, and a lot of like white just general population around me was Caucasian, and I was always told if you're not guilty, you don't have anything to be worried about. Just be honest and you'll be fine. Which I thought that was cool, and it sounds good. And I lived that life thinking, you know, the justice system is, they're our friends, they're for us. If you're ever in trouble, go running to either your mom or your dad or them. Like, that's how I saw it. And I heard a couple stories, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right. And I'm like, I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it. And then I was like, oh, good, they have evidence. And then I'm like, well, why aren't they showing the evidence? And then it was it was an interesting awakening. And then it struck close to home with a friend of mine. And I started following the Innocence Project, and my eyes were opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy smokes, something needs to be done. And like, I couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is ridiculous. And so after my friend had lost his trial, and I couldn't believe it because it was just ridiculous, then I went online and I saw, because I'm like, I'm just going to go on Facebook and try and forget about what just happened. I went on Facebook, and the very next story I saw was someone who was innocent and in prison. And then, like, that was my tripping point to doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't just go away and shut it out. Like, something had to be done. Then that night, I don't know if it came to me in a dream or if it just in my imagination or what, but I had the image, and I worked real hard to get that image on a paper. And it took me a week or two to get it fairly close to where a friend could digitalize it. And then we tweaked it on and off for about 6 years until we got the image we have today. Then I copyrighted it, and I'm trying to get it recognized as not only the national flag for innocent people behind bars, but a worldwide flag for innocent people behind bars. So
Awesome.
kind of like the POW flag.
Wow. That's great, Gabe. I appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah.
So, wow, thank you. That's awesome. I can't wait till tomorrow, you guys. I think Reverend Ed Pinckney left us, but I can't wait till everyone's on tomorrow. I'm so sorry, Mr. Jones, that you can't be with us, but we're gonna do it again, and maybe we can, get together and just continue this conversation, because it shouldn't be a one-day event.
Yes.
Because this happens every single day. And the more that we tell our stories and the more we organize, then we can win. So thank you to everyone that showed up today. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it. Hey, is there anything I need to know as far as a video? Can people see me, or is it just audio?
It's video as well. I don't know what kind of device you're on, but if you're on your cell phone or your tablet, you can also.
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone. Let's see if we can make sure that that's all good.
Okay.
Hit the little camera.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Sweet. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I got my
everyone.
shirt on right here.
Yeah, you did.
This is the design I made.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's nice.
And I mailed you a flag. I was hoping you could get it by tomorrow, but I don't know if it'll get there in time.
Well, yeah, with the mail that they done screwed up. Now, hopefully, I'll be looking for it. But if it is, I'll be so happy so I can display it for everybody. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you, Lisa. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to work out the kinks so we'll be smooth sailing on tomorrow. I appreciate you guys. Good night.
Right, tomorrow at 6.
Yes, at 6.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Goodbye.